Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Beyond Borders, a space for honest conversations where people, technology, art and mental health meet. We're here to explore what's changing, what matters and what it means to stay human in the middle of it all.
Good and welcome back to the Beyond Borders episode. It's episode 10, which means it's the last episode of season 2. Hope you enjoyed all the episodes and feel free to listen them back. Again, as always, I am here with Caroline Hammond and Spranko, and today we talk about, does AI writing disrupt the credibility of consultancy or in general? In the latest news, what we did see is that consultancy firms, businesses are using AI to the masses, even in their reports, in their research, and whatever you can think of it. So today we discuss the point, does AI disrupt the credibility of businesses and people who are reporting, researching, and whatever? I also use AI in writing a lot, mostly to check my writing or make it more formal, but I don't use it for research purposes or making reports. There is a big reason for that because I know for a fact that ChatGPT generates sources that aren't real sources, so they are not credible to use. But in the latest news that we saw that big firms are actually using those sources. That is a big problem, definitely for people who are receiving the reports because they're not sure what is real, what is correct, and what to use. That's a big reason why AI needs to be improved in the sense of reporting, researching, etc. And I want to ask Caroline, you focus a lot on communications, you write your own book, are very familiar with AI. Do you think it undermines authenticity that clients expect from consultants or in general when people use it for writing purposes?
It's such an interesting and current topic, this one, isn't it? And I think when I first saw it, what we were going to talk about today, my immediate thought was that what we're really talking about here is trust, not just technology. Consultancy's always been about credibility through depth, through insight, and through judgment. And I think using AI doesn't automatically remove that, but it does test how we define it. And bear with me here. So if a consultant starts relying on AI to produce what they haven't actually thought through, haven't actually researched for themselves, and that's what we're seeing at the minute, with the cases coming out in the news, then I think authenticity collapses, of course. But if AI becomes a thinking partner, a partner that helps us extend our ideas, refine our ideas, or speed up structure, then it's simply a tool supporting human expertise. So for me, the question isn't whether AI undermines credibility, but whether consultants are staying present in their work, still thinking, still interpreting, and still taking responsibility for what they deliver. So I think authenticity, back to your question, authenticity isn't necessarily about whether a human or a machine wrote the words. It's about the integrity of the process and intention behind them. It's about how we show up. Are we working with the AI as a creative partner in order to extend or polish our work on our own ideas? Or are we showing up to extract from AI to have it do the work for us? And for me, at the minute, what I see out there is that happening. There's almost like an excitement, I can get it to do these things in minutes that would take me weeks to do. Well, they're missing the point, and the point is emerging in the press, isn't it, at the moment? That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I agree. And I understand why it is emerging. There have been a couple circumstances that it's proven that the AI was used for research reports. And definitely as a receiver from reports, if you receive a report and you say, clearly can see, okay, this is AI, the sources are not correct, etc. There's a big chance you've paid already a big sum of money because definitely the big firms are very costly. How do you think that will change any over time when AI will be more regularly used?
I think it's an interesting question again. The real danger here with all of this isn't AI writing, it's human detachment. So when we outsource not just writing, but our thinking, that's when authenticity disappears. And that's what we're seeing. So I think we've reached a point where authenticity has to evolve. It's less about who typed whatever it is and more about who stands behind it, who takes responsibility for what's being said and what's being produced. And surely that has to be us.
Definitely. And Sprinkle, from a tech adoption perspective, how can consultants use AI to enhance productivity, or without actually crossing the line of losing their personal voice? How do they manage that?
That's a great one, Pim, and happy to be discussing this with you and Carolyn. For me, it's more of a staying true to yourself and understanding why you're introducing AI to your work, life, career, whatever, in the first place. Uh, as you both of you know, I don't use a lot of AI in my work, consultancy, writing, hosting, mental health, and it's intentional because I want to stay true to myself and I want to ensure that when people come to me for, say, mental health consultancy, they're speaking to and with me, the human being that has been through depression, that struggles with anxiety, that can relate directly to heartbreak. And whatever feedback or advice or practical tips, helpful recovery pathways I'm sharing comes from a place of true experience, directly or indirectly. Whatever AI is doing for me is more of doing with me. So before the popularity of AI, I used Grammarly to refine my writings. And a lot of times while working with, you know, editors in the writing industry, a few times they will pop up and say, "Oh, but Grammarly suggests this," and I would say, "No, that's the tone Grammarly wants me to use, but this is how I want the reader to feel when reading this particular paragraph." So for me, I'm not against consultants using AI to support their work, but it's more or less never forget who you are and what your purpose is. Whether it is to make $1 million or to create real impact, ensure that AI is simply an assistant, not replacing who you are, and you're just the $1 million front. And just to simplify it, how I do is say you have maids at home working with you, or servants or assistants, however you want to call them. Does that person who makes your meal every single day, does that support, does that help equate to you forgetting how to cook, forgetting how you clean, forgetting how to do your laundry yourself? Or are they just a helpmate when you're not up to doing it? That's how I say it.
That's great, and I think that's going to be a great bridge when bringing trust back to consultancy is that they need to be transparent to the clients. They can disclose that they use AI or as a ghostwriter or whatever purpose they do. And then
Yeah.
clients know beforehand, okay, there is AI involved in the ghostwriting, not in the sourcing, not in the research itself. And therefore, my question to Caroline is, do you believe that transparency about AI use should be a best practice, so to be standard for not just consultancy communications, but for more sectors, or is it really on the risk of the client to figure it out?
Interesting one. I think transparency in principle should always support trust. But context matters here, doesn't it, really? I think clients don't necessarily need a full tech breakdown. They need reassurance that quality and accountability remain human. And we each do that through our own unconscious competence. And what I mean here, and if you think about it, if we outsource our thinking to AI, there is no doubt that our unconscious competence will diminish. Our well of competence as consultants is grown over many years, encompassing education, experience, successes, failures, the whole gambit of things that make us who we are. And if we distance ourselves from that well through over reliance on AI, it will inevitably be felt by our clients. However, if AI is used ethically as a research assistant, not a ghostwriter, then a simple statement of process can actually enhance trust rather than undermine it. But transparency becomes performative when it shifts focus away from outcomes. What matters here is whether the work still reflects the consultant's expertise and ethical standards. So, yes, of course, transparency is a mindset, not a disclosure checklist, and clients should feel that we as consultants are using every tool responsibly to serve their best interests. And we all need to get comfortable with utilizing AI on that basis because it's here to stay. So we've got to find a way to balance it all. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also definitely here to say, and I completely agree that even a small remark can actually bring more trust for the client. And for you, Sprinkle, when trust involves, for example, with your consultant or whatever, and later on AI will be used and you know that it will be used, will that boost your confidence in their efficiency, or will it really spark any doubt in their work that they might deliver towards you?
It depends. And I'm saying it depends because uh, a little bit to what Carolina shared. I would love whoever I'm dealing with to be transparent. I want to know that you're speaking or you're sharing whatever it is. I'm working with you on a clear, trustworthy, and transparent basis. I don't mind the inclusion of AI, but I want to know that it's limited. I want to know that it's not influencing what you're doing for me, it's supporting it. So look at it from a relational AI perspective. The moment I know that you're dumping everything for AI to take the lead, and what you're feeding me is simply ChatGPT or whatever AI tool, I will sort of lean to trust myself more than the consultant or whoever I'm doing business with. So largely, I would say trust has to stay. And for me, it's largely dependent on the person, the integrity they have with themselves and with me as a client, and how the efficiency of the work, progresses. If the work is great, if what I'm getting from them is exactly what I want or even better, great. I would not question it. And if I find out that AI is the one behind it, if it solves the problem, great. But also, I would definitely bring it up and say, you know what? You didn't tell me AI is behind all this. So what exactly are you doing? Am I paying AI or am I paying you? You know what I mean? So I think trust largely plays a huge role there, and one way to maintain that is to sort of remain true to yourself, not just to the client, but true to yourself. Ensure that you're not losing bits of yourself, bits of your creativity, bits of your wisdom, bits of your knowledge to AI. It's just simply another executive assistant.
Yeah, it's completely true. I think also the question, I really find the remark very interesting that you say, who am I paying? Am I paying the AI or am I paying the consultant? And
Exactly.
definitely later on, I think consultants might actually need to explain more why they are a consultant or what their expertise is because of AI. I think many people now, before they go to consultants, they first go to ChatGPT or any other AI and ask the same question and eventually questions to receive a sort of a report. And then they gonna see the report that they seeing, is it good enough or do I really need a consultant? What is your opinion on that way of work, Caroline?
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? And listening to you both has just made me think of something. You know, when AI first came out, and even now, there are people, artists, who are against AI artists. And I guess if we have the numbers, and I don't have them in front of me, but I guess the world has discovered more artists as a result of AI than we had before. And we could find ourselves in the same situation with consultancy work because you can be an expert in anything now. And that's super scary, isn't it, really? And so what you just said, Pim, about, an expert understanding what it is that they're bringing to the table and what Sprenker said about who am I paying? Am I paying you or am I paying the AI? If you've got someone who is regurgitating AI content and calling them an expert in their, calling themselves an expert in their field, that is just wrong on so many levels because that person is missing formal education. And I think formal education over time is probably going to disappear, but they're missing years of experience, of applied knowledge, of success and failure, as I said. So it's super complex, isn't it? As a situation we find ourselves in now with this.
Yes, and then the question is, how do new consultants, professional consultants that have been in the field for years, how do they redefine what their expertise is? And how do they stand out? That's going to be my question because if that's not really redefined and not very clear, but they just work at a big firm and we say, okay, we have expertise with this for years. But the person who's going to do the research report or help you with your strategy or whatever you find a consultant for, if that's not described well, what's going to be the difference? How do they need to redefine themselves to stay relevant for the upcoming time?
I think we are standing on a precipice with this. And I think we really need to redefine our human expertise in this because it is changing. There can be no doubt about it. Expertise is no longer just about having access to information. AI is leveling that particular playing field like many others. So for me, our human edge now lies in oversight, interpretation, empathy, ethical discernment, things that AI cannot bring to the table, we need to augment. AI can process data, but it doesn't feel the consequence of the output. A consultant still carries the emotional and moral weight of their recommendations. And that's not something you can automate or hand over to AI. So rather than competing with AI, consultants should be deepening the human dimensions of their work. We all need to do this now at this point we're standing in time. That conceptual understanding, relational trust, moral reasoning that machines cannot replicate. That's where the gap lives. That's what we have to fill. That's what will give us the edge over AI. And when I say I'm vaguely uncomfortable with saying that edge over AI because I wholly believe we can work alongside it, but we have to understand that that gap exists and we need to fill it. And it's super difficult because organizations are just on block now replacing humans with AI, but they are coming up against problems. They are finding the errors. And when you're talking about huge organizations, those errors can be catastrophic. So there is still a need for humans. So I think to sum up this question, Pim, the consultants who thrive won't be the ones who resist AI, but those who integrate it meaningfully, using it as an amplifier of insight, not an imitation of it. And by the same token, the organizations that thrive through the implementation of AI will be the ones who don't just automate, but integrate and extend what they already have. If we see AI as a precursor to growth, the human in the human AI exchange must lead. That's my take.
Yeah, I agree, and I think more specialized work will always be there for consultants because that's too difficult for AI, at least for now, because there are more measurements that come from the business that you are consulting for. There are more, let's say, geopolitical issues or whatever it may seem. Specialized work will always be there. And for in the upcoming 5 years or after 5 years, how do you think the consultancy sector looks and what do they need to do to stay relevant in your opinion, Spenko?
Karen has shared beautifully, I must say. And for me, in the next few years, is going to be tough because a lot more people would feel they can just hit up AI, get the answers or solutions, and have no need for consultants or experts, if you may. I would say we need to, as consultants or those who provide in these services, ensure that we do not lose ourselves to this AI trend as well, because as Caroline mentioned, there's certain things that AI would not be able to do. Some may argue that even empathy can be shared by AI, but I think it is more important that we understand transparency. When you're unable to do something, let the client know that AI was the one that came through with this. Is more of a showing parts of ourselves that strengthen credibility. Be the reason or show a reason to people for them to trust that you're going to be able to come through for them with or without the support of AI. I think that's one way to stay not just credible, but relevant. Sometimes people know that, yeah, you have an AI assistant, you have AI working alongside you. That piece of art was co created with AI, but they love it still because they are reassured in words and action, in how you present yourself, how they can relate to that piece of art or service, that you are still there. If they want that art because of who you are as an artist, they need to see that still in every piece of art that you put out, whether it's AI involved or not. So that's my stake. If we want to stay relevant in the next few years, put it a decade even, we need to ensure credibility, transparency, and authenticity in our work, irrespective of the support that we get from AI. And we need to also make that shift, showing that AI can be great if you use it the right way.
Yeah, I agree. And does it help? Probably not. That still there is a little bit of a taboo on using AI. Therefore, people put it into secrecy and don't tell about it. Do you think that's a big part of the issue when it comes to using AI in all kinds of sector? There is still a taboo on using it, Caroline.
I think there is, and it saddens me to be honest, but it's kind of where we are at the minute. But I loved what Sprenko shared because it's about how we show up with AI. That is the key here to the future of this relationship. And we're still, I think many of us trying to work it out. There's a lack of consistent understanding. And so there's almost an embarrassment for some people of admitting that they used AI. But there's the word, isn't it? Used. Let's move away from used, worked with, collaborated with. There are other words we can use to reinforce the working nature of the relationship with AI. And so we can move away from this culture of secrecy, this culture of fear of stepping forward. Because even if as a consultant, you could say something to one particular client and say, well, look, I collaborate with AI. I work with it every day. It extends my thinking. It helps me grow as a consultant. It helps me do my job better for you. And so I am using all of the tools at my disposal. Now, one client may say, brilliant, fabulous. You know what? I'm a fan of AI as well. I get it. That's how I use it. Brilliant, fabulous. Thank you. You'll say that to somebody else and they'll be horrified. Oh my God, you're using AI. Oh no, I don't know. All this money you're charging and actually ChatGPT is doing the work. No, I don't think so. So we're in really difficult water at the minute. And both of those scenarios come from different understanding and different experience. So there's a huge need, I think, for education, for people to understand what it is that an AI is at the end of the day, and the ways that people are using it. I think what's becoming more and more evident with these reports that are coming out in the press is that people are coming to understand that they can't just outsource the work to AI, that the oversight and the management of the work comes from us. Make sense?
Yes, and I also think a big part, as you also mentioned, the educational part of AI, that let's say the people who are very new to AI don't know that sourcing is bad. They just most of the time is on made up sources. They don't exist or they reference with certain keywords to different websites. When that educational come that actually enhances, let's say, possible reports that come out of a person. And because the person knows what AI can do and the person knows what AI can't do. Therefore, you probably get better text. Definitely in my case, you get maybe better formats, diagrams, visuals, whatever AI is very good at is when you give it information, not when you request certain researched information, then AI isn't currently at the stable it needs to be. And the last remarks, Franco, do you think we will see more of this news in the upcoming time, or will consultancy firms learn it from the others' mistakes?
Honestly, I think we'll see more of it. I think people will do whatever they want to do regardless, and people are looking towards more seamless work. People want to have more time for other stuff. So I think I wouldn't be shocked if I see more of this. But those who would lean into self-sufficient methods would do that regardless. What do you think, Karen?
Yeah, I agree, to be honest. I think that these big companies are embarrassed and it's out there. And so we're all going to learn from that, aren't we, really? And people are becoming more savvy about it. You know, you and I and Pim can spot on the timeline when something's been generated by AI, and that's fine. But, you know, come on, we've got to inject ourselves into this process. In the end, I think our credibility isn't being lost by using AI. It's being redefined, you know. The future expert will be one who can say, yes, AI helped me see more, but I was the one who decided what mattered here. And I think, you know, what's emerging here is a shift from defending our credibility to redefining it. Maybe authenticity in consultancy will no longer be about proving what's human, but showing how responsibly we use what isn't.
Totally agree. And then we are at the end of the last episode of season two of the Beyond Borders podcast. And I think a big lesson that we can always take away from all the episodes is that educate yourself in AI. Feel free to play with AI, use AI, and talk about your emotional feelings about AI, about yourself, about your work, how you're feeling, and then how you are doing. We would like to thank you for another season of listening and being with us. And therefore, we thank you again and hopefully see you again in the next season. Thank you very much and bye bye.